What's happening, connoisseurs? It's Rod with Pow Group. Welcome back on the Pursuit of Wealth, your home for MJ Stocks, crypto assets, news, and interviews. Today's Friday. Happy Friday, March 14th. Hope you're well. And we're going to do another rapid fire news update, this time for the period March 8th to the 14th. And again, it's not a deep dive detail, it's just a high level overview in case you missed it, and you can dig into it more on your own time. Before we get to it, make sure to smash the like, subscribe, tick the bell, all that good stuff. You'll be notified on any future rapid fire news or when I post new content. You can also follow us over on X, formerly Twitter. Handle for that is @GroupPow. Going to be using that as my platform of choice going forward. And as always, this is not financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. We'll jump right into the news. Suspicions, and I don't think anybody would be surprised by this, are arising that the DEA rigged the rescheduling process fueled by court documents. Well, the first thing that, set me off and raised a red flag was the fact that they had all these anti, legalization groups in there and barely any pro legalization. So that was a pretty big red flag. So it's not surprising. There's been decades and decades of stigmatization and just this war on drugs that it's a farce. Everybody knows it's just because they're trying to protect the incumbents, right? Just like the horse and buggy was disrupted by the automobile, but this has been going on for a lot longer, right? And it's the reefer madness and all that BS. But at the end of the day, we know it's medicine. We know it's safe. It's safer than alcohol, right? Tobacco kills like almost 500,000 people in the US annually alone. This has never killed a single person. It's medicine, and it's way safer than alcohol, which we have some news coming on that in just a moment as well. But the writing is on the wall. We all know, the government can't fool us. 80 to 90% of Americans in the world know that it's medicine, and it's a fantastic plant and just helping so many people in so many different ways, not just from a recreational perspective. It's more healthier alternative, but it's also people who are suffering, right? Like it should be up to people to make the decision. But again, it's the big alcohol, big pharma, big tobacco that is being disrupted, and they're trying to slow it down as long as possible. They can't stop it, but they're trying to slow it, just like they did with crypto in the U.S. And now look what's happening, right? The new administration is going full force. But as I've said multiple times on this channel, the U.S. is never first, they're never last, and they don't have to be, because they definitely don't want to be last, but they don't have to be first because they have the biggest economy in the world and they can leapfrog everybody once they start to get behind whatever it is. Also, Kronos Group Inc. to speak at the 37th Annual Roth Conference. That's going to be on Monday, March 17th, 2025 at 1 p.m. Pacific time. So Canadians are increasing MJ consumption as alcohol declines. I can't remember if I mentioned this in my last week's video, but this is a trend that I expect that will continue. And majority of Americans say that alcohol is more harmful than MJ. Poll finds. Well, is the sky blue? Did you know that? I think this is pretty much Captain Obvious. Everybody knows this. It's not. Again, it's just big alcohol, big pharma. It's so blatantly obvious that I can't imagine anybody it's just getting to the point where the government's looking silly, and all these bureaucratic agencies give the people what they want. You were put in there by the people, for the people. You work for the people. They pay your bills. Do what is the right thing, and that is to get behind this industry, this amazing plant and medicine of the future. And it's time to end this farce. MJ offers hope for treating chronic pain and reducing use of other medications. So you're starting to see why big pharma is so disrupted. And again, I've said this multiple times. I worked at a big pharma, multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical company, and they were fined billions of dollars for their involvement in the opioid crisis. And then for the next 2 years, all they could talk about was CBD and cannabinoid-based medicine. So what does that tell you? Survey says that 84% of UK doctors would prescribe medical MJ for chronic pain if NHS allowed it. So again, it's medicine of the future, and we're gonna get there. We're starting to see Europe really come online in a big way. You got Switzerland, France. We got some news coming with regards to that in just a moment, and Germany, right? And just the dominoes are falling, and it won't be long before the US is following in their footsteps. Also, Kentucky Senate approves MJ-infused beverage bill. So essentially, they're going to be limiting it to 5 milligrams. I can kind of relate to this. Like in Canada, we still don't. It's max per 10 milligrams. I think a lot of people are saying we need a 100 milligram option. I see it all the time in the States, but it's a little dangerous doing a 100 milligram. You don't have any business doing that. Like if you've been consuming MJ, like an avid consumer for like the last decade or two, then maybe your tolerance is that high. But I mean, it's been like 20 years for me, going on 20 years, 15, 20 years. And, I'm good with like 30, 40. And with all this nano emulsion technology and the technology that we have these days, I'm good with like 30 or 40. Any more than that, and it's just kind of silly, right? If your tolerance isn't able to keep up, then maybe you need to take a break. It's probably good. Your body will probably thank you as well. It's not going to kill you, but it'll certainly slow you down, give you brain fog, whatever it is, right? But certainly you want to check in with yourself and listen to your body. And there's a saying I mentioned this on X and in the Power Group private community. There's a saying in MJ, start low and go slow. Well, that also applies to investing, not just consumption. And if I seem a little flustered today, it's because I am. I just spent about an hour and a half trying to get my daughter to bed. She was, I don't know what kind of spell she's going through. If you're a dad or a mother and you have a daughter or a son, somewhere around that 13 to 14 month mark, do they cry more? Are they fussy more? Because holy, it's been a whirlwind the last few days. It's just been nonstop, whining and crying, and it's like it's never been like that. And it took me an hour and a half to get her to bed, and it was rough. But I think she finally hit the hay. So Cresco Labs secures foothold in Kentucky's infant medical MJ market. Speaking of infants, the MSO will soon be responsible for managing a 25,000 square foot cultivation complex. Also, despite conservative victory, German MJ executives remain bullish. So, Germany's medical MJ market is seeing unprecedented growth, with the company executives across the pond reporting sales increases of up to 450% since recent reforms. However, questions have arisen about the future of the market as a new conservative government prepares to take over. Again, I've been saying this for a while now. They might hit pause. They might try to slow down the rollout or just pause it altogether. But I don't think they're going to walk anything back. That's my own thoughts and opinions. Again, not financial advice, but let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section. Also, Tilray Medical launches Tilray Craft, introducing high THC, high terpene genetics to the German medical MJ market. So love to see this. And just wait until you get some of their Redican genetics. Like the Space Age Cake is probably my favorite one at the moment. Animal Runts, can't go wrong with that. I just picked up a pack of the Blunties. It's like $11 for 4 blunts, and they're amazing. This thing's almost 33% THC. And it's you wait till what's the other one? Purple Churro, really, really good. It's actually a sativa, but it hits harder than an indica, and it should be called Indicouch because it's nuts and it's so friggin' tasty. Like you got to try these, and I've been hearing like different MSOs and different LPs talk about quality, like a flight to quality. And we're going to see that like you wouldn't believe. And in my opinion, Tilray is the leader, especially for bang for your buck, right? Like you can get some of these strains for like dirt cheap, right? Which would cost you like maybe 10 times as much, maybe not 10 times, maybe 5 times as much in the US. And we're starting to see prices come down and price compression and competition really start to mount in the US. And it's just a matter of time, right? But Tilray issues more shares to pay down debt. I posted a video on this already. But essentially, they issued about 23 million shares in exchange for about $14 million of their debt, I think it was. So while this is more dilution, they are getting rid of their debt, so that avoids paying interest. They're paying down their debt, but it's at the expense of shareholders, essentially, right? Because they're increasing the shares. Also, just posted a video on Tilray and Tesla, and I compared the dilution of both companies from start to where we are now from inception. And anybody who says, oh my God, you can't compare Tesla to whatever, like, I don't care what you say. I'll do whatever I want. Companies, that's why companies go to the public market, is to raise money. And Tesla raised about $32 billion through stock offerings. And so far, Tilray's only done about $2 billion. And you're like, okay, well, that's a bigger addressable market. It's a completely different industry. Yes, but that's why Tilray's at $2 billion, and they're getting close to profitability, right? They're paying down their debt. They'll soon be debt free. I think they'll be debt free probably sometime in 2026, at the latest 2027. And then what do you think is going to happen? Once they have no debt and they turn profitable, then they're going to have more money than you know what to do with, right? Just like just like Tesla, right? They were the same thing. They had the biggest loss ever before they posted their first annual. It's so blatantly obvious, right? But the low IQ people will tell you you can't compare those two because they can't. Once they hear Tesla, they're like, oh my god, he's comparing an almost $1 trillion company to 500 or $600 market cap company. They just don't have the brain capacity to understand. I'm not comparing the companies where they are or the sectors or anything like that. I'm not saying Tilray's a Tesla. I'm saying that all the great companies go through these high growth industries, right? But again, I'm just not going to even waste any more time on it. People who have watched those videos and understand what I'm trying to convey, they get it, they understand it, they appreciate it. You'll always have the low IQ, just morons, really, for lack of a better word, who are just going to spout whatever, and they quite often just say you can't do that, and then don't give you a reason. So that's enough of that. Tilray grows its non-alcoholic craft beer line, Runner's High Brewing, across the East Coast and Midwest regions. I actually can't wait to try these. I'd love to try the raspberry wheat and the dark chocolate. And I'm kind of looking forward to the day where they start to bring some of these brands into Canada. I don't know why they haven't even started to do that yet. I think they really should. High Tide to announce first fiscal quarter 2025 financial results, and that's going to be on Monday, March 17th, after financial markets close. So I'll do my best to just maybe do a live stream of the conference call. Let me know if that's something that you'd like to see, and I'll do a review of the earnings as well. We also have some other interesting news with regards to SNDL becoming a very large shareholder of High Tide. Florida judge dismisses Trulieve MJ legalization defamation lawsuit, so good on the company for that. Also, France makes major step towards medical MJ legalization after years of waiting, and a very conservative government and country. And a lot of people are starting to get frustrated. I see people all the time on my videos and my comments, social media, saying, I can't believe, France is beating the U.S. And like I said, they're never first, they're never last. Don't worry, they won't be far behind. It's just they have bigger fish to fry at the moment. They have bigger things to worry about. But once they do, man, oh man, they're going to catch up like you wouldn't believe. It'll be like you blink and they'll be at the forefront. Also, Auxly to report fourth quarter and full year 2024 financial results on March 20th, 2025. That's going to be on Thursday before financial markets open. And that's going to be for the period ending December 31st, 2024. I'm hopeful these are going to be great earnings. I think they said they sold over like 26 million units of their vape. They're all in one vape. But I've also interviewed the CEO, Hugo Alves, and if you haven't seen that, you can check it out. And I also just posted a video on their presentation at the Ventum conference. So if you haven't seen that, you can check that out. It was a fantastic interview and presentation. That's just for members at the moment as well. So if you're a VIP member or a Pow Group private community member, you'll have access to those. Also, Cresco Labs sees lower revenues but better cash flow. So they just reported their Q4 and 2024 results. They had 724 million revenue, which was a record operating cash flow of 132 million and free cash flow of 114 million. And overall, they did have an increase of 126%, like I said. So this is a company that I'm pretty bullish on them. I didn't really put my money where my mouth is that much. Like I think the company will do well. It's not my number one or number two or maybe my number three. We'll see. But in the U.S., we just don't know yet. And a lot of these MSOs are going to have to compete with LPs. We're already seeing it, right? Canopy and under Canopy USA is now under Acreage, Jetty, and Wana. So everybody said that they'll never have to compete. And then SNDL has entries in there. Like it's gonna. And then what happens if High Tide comes to the U.S.? All these MSOs are retailers as well, right? What happens when the king of retail, High Tide, enters the U.S.? All you MSO maxis better think about that, right? But funny thing is, a lot of the MSO maxis also love High Tide. Well, they might come and eat your lunch, right? And it was the CEO, Sebastian of Hexo, the old CEO. He said that he believes that being a producer and a retailer at the same time is the wrong move. And I would agree. You don't see that very often with like Budweiser, Anheuser-Busch, or whatever, right? And it's definitely the producers that make the most money versus the retailers, right? Like not even close. And Yeah, I think that that's a wrong move as well. I think you should pick one, right? Just like High Tide isn't a producer, they picked retail and retail only. They don't pay excise taxes, but there's benefits and there's pros and cons to each one, right? Health Canada also proposes making CBD products available without prescription. Of course, why not? Let's do it. Get with the program. That should definitely happen over the counter type of options, right? Put it in a pharmacy, things like that, or put it like next to the Tylenol's way worse for you. Also, Ascend Wellness reports full year revenue increase despite fourth quarter slump, but full year revenue grew 8.3%. If you haven't seen that, you can check it out. Also, the Department of Government Efficiency cancels MJ Research grant. A lot of people are kind of up in arms about this, but I don't think it's a huge deal. They're just trying to cut government spending. They're trying to cut government, jobs in the government altogether and rely more on the private sector, which is going to, benefit, these companies, these MSOs, these LPs, and eventually, once we get rescheduling, that's going to knock down the barriers of research and studies and whatnot as well. So maybe just a little bit of a sign of the time of things might be changing at the federal level. Also, Switzerland's MJ legalization pilot program is running smoothly with no indication of public disturbances, government report finds. And we're almost 7 years, I think it is, here in Canada last time I checked. And we don't have zombies running around in the street, for crying out loud. Like, it's just the stuff these people make up. It's if it's nothing else, it's definitely entertaining. But you have to wonder, some of these people, man, they must think we're like the most stupid creatures on the planet to believe some of the stuff that they come out with, right? And most of it's like funded by big pharma, big alcohol, big tobacco, like all this fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and just BS, for lack of better words. The Cannabis Co. also reported $455 million in 2024 revenue. If you haven't checked that out, you can do so. Also, legalizing MJ in Australia would generate $700 million in annual revenue, government analysis projects. So again, this is, it's a big market, right? MJ is a big market, but like crypto is the word out of every second word out of the new administration is crypto and blockchain, right? And AI, and that's because they go hand in hand. But also, the fact that it's going to be such a huge market, right? We're talking $50 to $100 trillion. The crypto and blockchain space is going to be. MJ will be lucky to get to $1 trillion, right? Case in point, $700 million in annual revenue in Australia. It's going to take a while before we even get to $1 trillion. Also, Wana Brands brings THC infused sparkling hemp beverages to Total Wine and more stores nationwide. So again, they're starting to compete with these, and Tilray has its own hemp derived beverages. And these MSOs, you're already starting to feel the competition from these LPs, right? And it's going to continue. Just wait until they see it's going to be regulated just like alcohol and tobacco, folks. Like, in case you haven't, in case you weren't aware, mark my words, that's how it's going to be, and it might even be even better than alcohol. It should be. It should be on its own level, its own pedestal, because those other two are poison. So they should be regulated even more. So like tobacco should for sure be on a Schedule 1, right? Very no medical benefits and very, very high addictive rates, right? It's highly addictive. So it just makes the addiction is, anyways, I could go on for an hour. It just, makes my blood boil sometimes thinking of, how these governments are just so behind in the times. And it's not because they're doing it because they're, incapable or they're dumb. They know exactly what they're doing. They're trying to slow the industry down so that the incumbents can catch up, right? Study shows that 40% of veterans with chronic pain use MJ to manage their symptoms. So somebody show this to the new administration, right? Like these are your veterans, these are your people, right? And if people want to use it for their pain or their PTSD or their anxiety or whatever it is, their sleep, let them. Like, who are you to tell people what to do? It's so frustrating, but I digress. Grow Generation reports fourth quarter and full year 2024 financial results. They had full year net sales of $188.9 million, including proprietary brand sales of $39.5 million. So you can check out the full details on that. But this is more of the picks and shovels. It wasn't necessarily the people looking for gold that made the most money. It was the people that were selling them the shovels. So this is kind of the picks and the shovels, right? Also, Village Farms International, they beat. They reported their Q4 and full year 2024 results and comments on profitable growth initiatives in 2025. I had some requests to do a review video of those earnings, so I'll have it on my to-do list. It's actually my birthday tomorrow, and I'm going to be traveling to Calgary to celebrate doing the iFly skydiving, indoor skydiving thing. on Sunday, so it should be fun. It should be a fun weekend, and doing dinner in Calgary and staying the night in Calgary at an Airbnb. So I'll try to get it out. That's why I'm doing these videos, and the newsletter will go out today as well. I'm going to try to get that done here this evening. And yeah, that's it's going to be a busy weekend, but I'll try to get a video out with regards to VFF earnings summary at some point soon and my thoughts and opinions. Also, Rubicon Organics sends MJ flower to Poland, their first parcel shipped internationally. The BC MJ cultivator has a 125,000 square foot facility in Delta. And I also just posted from the Ventum conference as well their presentation, and that's for members only at the moment. Green Thumb opens 6 Ohio Rise dispensary in Whitehall. Bringing it home, SNDL quietly picks up shares in Canadian retailer High Tide. So it said in a regulatory filing that it picked up 5.4% of High Tide shares on March 10th. The company disclosed the purchase in a Schedule 13G form that reported SNDL acquired 4.35 million shares of the Canadian retailer. And it's not, I don't think there's anything like hostile or anything like that. 13G actually means that like they don't have any ambition to to kind of like go after the company or anything like that. But Raj Grover posted about a CEO of High Tide, and he said they're kind of monitoring the situation. But it goes to show you how undervalued some of these names are, and specifically High Tide, right? It's a little bit of a vote of confidence, especially whenever SNDL is a retailer, right? Value Buds, the discount sector, they're also a producer as well, and they also do alcohol retail. So they're very differentiated. That's what I love about the Canadian market now. It's just so differentiated, and we got a pretty idea of who the winners and losers are going to be long term. Also, Health Canada updates national MJ regulations. I mentioned this in the last update. The rules address a broad range of regulations for the industry and are expected to save operators significant time and money. So it has to do with regulations including changes to rules that govern licensing, production, packaging, labeling, security, record keeping, according to analysis by StratCan. And also getting rid of like the excise stamps and just making one national one instead of 13 different ones. So overall, great that they're moving in the right direction. And this is kind of a precursor to what we could see come next, which could be excise tax reform, right? They could go to a flat percentage fee, maybe 10% or something like that. But instead of, the way that it's set up, we don't know what it's going to be. We're just speculating, but it's more than likely going to go to a flat fee. And then also, Innovative Industrial Properties, IIPR, declares first quarter 2025 dividends. And again, I always go back, as soon as I see the word dividends, I always go back to Boris Jordan when he said, if it wasn't for 280E, he believes that Curaleaf would already be paying a dividend to investors. Let that sink in, right? And he said that he believes that MJ companies are going to be high cash flowing businesses. IIPR is a REIT though, right? But, I'm just kind of going into a different thought here, but a step further and saying that, these producers, they're going to be high cash flowing businesses, in my opinion as well. They're going to have more money than they know what to do with. As soon as they pay down their debt and they start to turn profitable, then yeah. And that's something too. If a company's not profitable and they have debt, dilution is always a risk, right? So going in it there, let me know what you think of this news, and we'll continue the conversation in the comment section below. Have a great night. It's Rod with Power Group. Once again, thanks again for joining us on the Pursuit of Wealth, and we'll catch you on the next update.